It doesn't take years. One day, one inner shift can change everything. That's not just a quote. It's a truth that many overlook. We think transformation needs time, years of effort, mountains of discipline. But what if it doesn't? What if your life can shift entirely not in a decade, but in a moment? Neville Goddard believed it could. And not just believed, he proved it, lived it, and taught it to thousands. Today, you're not here by accident. If you felt stuck, if things haven't been moving, if you're tired of the same old affirmations with no results, then this video might be the pivot point. Because what you're about to learn is not just surface level motivation. These are 7 powerful principles that Neville taught, and they aren't theory. They work, and they work fast. This isn't a list of fluffy ideas. This is about deep inner change, the kind that shakes your reality even in just one day. Now, I know that might sound unbelievable. You might be thinking, can anything actually change in 24 hours? Let's be honest. Most people never experience radical change because they're waiting for something external to shift. But Neville taught something most people miss, that the outer world is just a reflection, a mirror. And mirrors don't change first, you do. That's what we're diving into today. You're going to discover 7 principles that, when applied consciously, can create a shift so deep that your reality has no choice but to rearrange itself. Some of these principles are well known, but others are rarely talked about, hidden in Neville's lesser-known lectures, buried beneath years of misinterpretation. And the most powerful part, these ideas don't require anything from the outside world. No special tools, no long rituals, just you, your mind, and your willingness to experiment. So what can you expect? You'll learn why Neville believed consciousness was not in the body, but that the body was in consciousness. You'll discover the forgotten technique of revision, not just changing how you see the past, but literally changing its effect on your present. You'll hear how Neville used imagination, not just for wishful thinking, but as the creative force of reality itself. And then there's the principle most people misunderstand. Living in the end. Sounds simple, right? But what does it actually mean to emotionally occupy a state so fully that the world bends to reflect it? We'll get into all of that. But more than learning the principles, you'll see how applying them in a specific way with focus, clarity, and inner conviction led to real change. Not just theory, results. And that's where the real transformation happens. You'll also hear about stories, personal accounts where these ideas sparked sudden breakthroughs. People who were at rock bottom and in a single moment of awareness began climbing out, not by chance, but by using these teachings with intent. And here's a little known truth Neville often repeated. There is no one to change but self. That's not a metaphor. He meant it literally. Most people try to change their job, their relationship, their income, without ever shifting the inner state that created those conditions in the first place. Neville's message is simple, but deep. You don't get what you want. You get what you are. That's where the shift begins. Not outside, but inside. And that's why one inner change, one realignment of consciousness, can do more than a year of effort. So if you're ready to stop wishing and start shifting, this video is for you. If you've watched other content before and still felt stuck, maybe it's because the principles were explained vaguely, or maybe no one told you that how you feel is more powerful than what you say. Neville knew that assumption, not repetition, is the secret ingredient. Not just saying I am successful, but feeling it with such conviction that the world starts reflecting it back. You're not going to hear general motivation in this video. You're going to hear precision. You're going to get tools that are subtle but powerful. And if you stay with me until the end, you'll know exactly how to apply them. Every principle in this video will build on the last. It's not random. It's a structure, a method Neville used himself. By the end, you'll be able to walk away with a simple process to test these ideas for yourself. That's the beauty of Neville's work. He didn't want blind belief. He wanted proof through experience. Try the principles, test them, see what changes. Because once you see it work, even once, you'll never unsee it. You'll know you have the power to shift any part of your life. So stay with me, don't skip around. Each part connects. Each principle leads to the next. And the seventh one, most people never hear it, but it's the one that ties everything together. The one that made it all click for me. The one that truly transformed my life in one day. Before we begin, welcome to Ignis Mindset, where we explore the ideas that light a fire in your thinking and spark real transformation. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button and tap the bell so you never miss a powerful insight. This is a space for seekers, for thinkers, for those who know there's more. Let's dive in. Before we talk about the outer results you want to create, the money, the relationships, the freedom, we have to talk about where it all begins. Assumption. Assumption isn't just wishful thinking. It's not about repeating affirmations or pretending to be something you're not. Neville Goddard said it clearly. To be transformed, the whole basis of your thoughts must change. That means the very foundation of how you see yourself. Your self-concept has to shift, not just slightly, radically. Let's be honest. Most people chase what they want. They think if they work hard enough, if they do more, they'll finally get it. But here's the problem. They're operating from the assumption that they don't have it yet, that it's out there somewhere in the future. And as long as you assume it's missing, that's the state you live in. Lack. Neville taught that we don't manifest what we want. We manifest what we assume to be true. That's a subtle but massive difference. Wanting something keeps it distant, but assuming you already have it, that brings it into your reality. Think about it like this. When you assume something is already true, your actions, thoughts, and emotions shift to match that assumption, and reality, being a mirror, reflects it back. Let's take success as an example. There's a big difference between assuming success and chasing it. The person who chases success believes it's somewhere else. So they try harder, hustle more, grind longer. But deep down, they still see themselves as someone who's trying to become successful. Their identity is wrapped in effort, not arrival. Now compare that to someone who assumes success. They don't wait for proof to start thinking like a winner. They carry themselves differently. They walk into a room with presence. They make decisions from a place of confidence, not arrogance, but certainty. And it's that energy, that quiet assumption, that starts pulling results toward them without force. This is what Neville meant by transformation. He wasn't talking about surface level change. He was talking about identity. And until that changes, nothing else truly sticks. Here's something most people don't realize. Your current reality is just the echo of your past assumptions. Everything you see around you, your job, your income, your relationships, it's all a reflection of who you've been assuming you are. That might be a hard truth, but it's also incredibly empowering, because if your assumptions created this life, new assumptions can create a new one. You don't have to wait for permission. You just need to shift your inner state. Neville didn't tell people to ask for things. He told them to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. That means you act, think, and feel as if what you want is already yours. So how do you do that? You start by becoming conscious of what you're assuming right now. Ask yourself, who do I believe I am? Do I see myself as lucky or always struggling? Do I expect good things to happen, or do I expect delays, disappointments, and difficulties? These questions aren't just mental exercises. They reveal the state you're living from, and that state determines what shows up next. Neville would say that everything in your world is yourself pushed out. So if your world keeps reflecting limitation, it means your assumption of self is limited. You don't fix it by rearranging the outer world. You fix it by stepping into a new concept of self. Let's bring this down to something practical. Imagine you want to be more confident. You could try to fake confidence. You could repeat affirmations all day. But until you assume that confidence is who you are, your body language won't change. Your tone won't shift. You'll still be waiting for something to prove that you're confident. And that's not assumption, that's reaction. Assumption moves first. Reality follows. There's a power in quiet belief, not loud bravado, quiet inner knowing. That's what Neville practiced. That's what he taught his students. To assume without doubting, to feel the truth of a thing, not because the world confirmed it, but because the inner self claimed it. Here's where people get stuck. They say, I assumed it, but it didn't happen. But what they really mean is, I tried to believe it for a few minutes, then started doubting again. Assumption isn't a moment. It's a state you live in. And when you truly live in it, when you wake up and move through the day carrying that new concept of self, the world starts bending to meet you. Neville often said, change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. That's not metaphorical. He meant it literally. If you assume you're always struggling, then no matter how many opportunities come your way, something will always go wrong. Why? Because the deeper assumption pulls you back. But when you shift that, when you start saying, I am favored, things always work out for me, I am the kind of person success flows to, and you mean it, things begin to move differently. Here's a lesser known part of Neville's story. In one of his early lectures, he described how he struggled as a young man, broke, drifting, uncertain. But once he learned to assume his desires as real, everything shifted. His career, his relationships, his confidence. Not because the world changed first, but because his assumption did. He didn't just hope for things, he became the man who already had them. He felt it. He walked in it, and then the world followed. There's nothing complicated about this, but it requires consistency. You have to be willing to turn away from what you see and focus on what you assume, even if it looks impossible, even if nothing's changed yet. Because here's the secret. Reality doesn't lead assumption. Assumption leads reality. Once you understand that, everything becomes simpler. You stop begging for change. You stop needing proof. You start knowing, not guessing, that what you hold as true within must express itself without. So before we go further, ask yourself, what have I been assuming? Not what you've been wishing for. Not what you've been saying out loud, but what have you really been feeling to be true? Because that feeling, that inner belief, is what's shaping everything. You become what you assume, not just mentally, but emotionally, spiritually, energetically. And the moment you shift that assumption is the moment the world starts to shift around you. Not slowly, not eventually. Sometimes all it takes is one day. As we talk about actions, strategies, or goals, we have to talk about something deeper, the state you're living from. Because in Neville Goddard's world, it's not about what you do, it's about where you live internally. Neville called it living in the end. And this is more than visualizing your dreams or thinking positively. It's about dwelling in the state of your desire already fulfilled. Not one day, not someday, but now. This is where most people get stuck. They hope, they wish, they try, but they never actually move into the state where the desire is already theirs. They keep imagining it happening in the future, and so it stays in the future. Neville taught that everything begins and ends within you. The outer world is just a mirror. So if you want to change the reflection, you don't fight the mirror. You change the inner state, and the world rearranges to match it. But that means you have to stop waiting, stop asking, and start assuming the end. What does that look like? It means you no longer feel separate from your desire. You no longer act like it's missing. You walk, talk, think, and feel like it's already done, even when nothing in your outer world confirms it yet. Especially then. Neville said, dare to believe in the reality of your assumption. and watch the world play its part relative to its fulfillment. This is the real work. Let's say you want a new job. Most people imagine getting the offer, going to the interview, maybe hoping for a lucky break. But Neville would say, go straight to the end. Don't imagine the interview. Imagine celebrating your first paycheck. Imagine telling your friend about your first day. Imagine the relief and satisfaction that it already happened. Why? Because that feeling, the feeling of the end, carries the energy of done. And done is what the universe responds to. And it's not just the image that matters, it's the emotion behind it. Neville said, you must feel yourself into the state of your wish fulfilled. That means you don't think toward it, you feel from it. That tiny shift from hoping to being changes everything. When you feel from the end, you stop needing signs. You stop looking for evidence. You become the version of you who already has it. And from that state, your thoughts, words, and actions begin to align with your new reality. Effortlessly. This is where the next principle comes in. Feeling is the secret. That's not just a nice phrase, it's the core of everything. Neville taught, your feelings, not your thoughts, not your words, are what impress the subconscious. And your subconscious creates your reality. Neville said, ideas are impressed on the subconscious through the medium of feeling. No idea can be impressed on the subconscious until it is felt. But once felt, whether good, bad, or indifferent, it must be expressed. Think about that. It doesn't matter what you're telling yourself consciously. If you feel lack, that's what gets impressed. If you feel unworthy, that's what your world reflects. This is why thinking alone isn't enough. You can say affirmations all day. You can write goals, read books, make plans. But if your emotional state contradicts your words, the subconscious listens to the feeling, not the sentence. That's why Neville emphasized the importance of the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not the hope, not the want. The feeling as if it's real right now. So how do you do that? Neville gave a simple technique. He called it the imaginal act. You take a quiet moment before sleep, during meditation, or any time you can go inward, and you construct a short, vivid scene that would naturally occur after your desire has been fulfilled. Not a fantasy, a scene that feels real, personal, and emotionally charged. If your desire is to get married, you don't imagine the wedding. You imagine sitting next to your partner years later, laughing about something small, feeling the comfort of love. If your desire is financial freedom, you don't imagine counting money. You imagine a conversation where you say, it feels so good not to worry about bills anymore. The key isn't how long the scene is, it's how real it feels. And here's the most powerful part. You must feel from within the scene, not as a viewer watching it, but as the one experiencing it. Neville used to say, it is not what you want that you attract. You attract what you believe to be true. And belief isn't a thought, it's a feeling. It's a state you enter and embody. That's why living in the end works. Because when you emotionally enter the fulfilled state, your subconscious begins to accept it as reality. And from there, the world around you starts to echo that belief. Let's go deeper. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between real and imagined, as long as the feeling is strong enough. That's why memories and dreams can make us cry, laugh, or feel fear, even though nothing is physically happening. Use this to your advantage. When you imagine the end and feel it deeply, your subconscious starts to respond. It begins organizing people, events, and circumstances to match that inner state. Not through magic, through law. Neville called it the law of assumption. Assume it's true, feel that it's true, and the truth of it begins to unfold in your world. But most people don't stay in the feeling. They touch it for a moment, then go back to doubting, checking the world, and reacting to what they see. This breaks the state. You have to persist in the feeling, even when it feels strange, even when your mind argues, even when reality seems unchanged. That's the test. That's the practice. Feeling is the secret, but sustained feeling is the power. Neville wasn't talking about emotional outbursts. He was talking about a calm, steady inner conviction, and knowing the natural ease that comes when you've accepted the end as true. So many people wait to feel good after something happens. Neville flipped that around. Feel good now, as if it already happened, and then watch the world catch up. That's not delusion. That's creation. You are not trying to convince the world. You're only convincing your subconscious. And once the subconscious accepts it, the world has no choice but to mirror it. Everything you experience starts with a feeling, accepted as real. So stop hoping, stop chasing, stop reacting. Live in the end. Feel from the state. And remember, feeling is not a luxury. It's the language your subconscious speaks. And when you speak it fluently, your entire life begins to translate into the reality you desire. Most people don't realize that they're talking to themselves all day, silently, inwardly. A stream of thoughts, observations, and self-judgments flows non-stop. Neville Goddard called this inner speech, and he believed it was one of the most powerful creators of your outer world. He didn't just mean affirmations or occasional visualizations. He meant the constant whisper of words and assumptions you repeat to yourself without even thinking about them. It's not hard to see how this plays out. Someone wants to be successful, but keeps saying in their mind, "This is hard. I don't know if I can do it. I'm always unlucky. I never get the opportunity." They may never say it out loud. They may smile, look confident, and even try hard, but inside their inner speech is working against them. Neville said, "Your inner speech mirrors your mind, and your mind mirrors your reality." This means whatever story you are telling yourself in silence, that's what your world reflects. People think reality is shaped by effort alone, but more often it's shaped by inner commentary, a constant script that either supports your desires or sabotages them. That's why changing your inner speech isn't just helpful, it's essential. You might wonder, how do you actually do that? Start by paying attention. Notice the tone of your inner voice. Is it hopeful or doubtful? Is it grounded in already having or still waiting? Is it calm or filled with conflict? Then begin to shift. Don't force. Just redirect. Replace thoughts like "I hope this works" with "it feels natural that this is already mine." Not as a wish, but as a state of being, a quiet knowing. Neville taught that inner conversations are not just reflections of what you believe. They create belief. And belief is what creates your world. If you keep saying in your head, "Things never go my way," don't be surprised when life continues to give you more of the same. You're planting that seed every time you think it. But if your inner dialogue begins to echo phrases like, "Everything flows toward me with ease. I always end up where I need to be. This version of me is inevitable," your subconscious begins to accept that as fact. Inner speech becomes a rhythm, a background frequency that your reality tunes into. That's why it's not just about saying positive things once in the morning. It's about living with a new script inside you, moment by moment, one that reflects the end you're choosing. Not because it sounds nice, but because it feels normal. Neville emphasized normalization. The more natural something feels in your mind, the faster it expresses in the world. So the goal is not hype. It's calm conviction. It's quiet, fulfilled inner talk. Not desperate, not needy, just steady. A person who walks around saying nothing out loud but thinking, "I'm not good enough. I can't handle this. What if it all goes wrong?" is praying for those things silently, continuously. That's why Neville said prayer is the key to heaven, but feeling is the hand that turns it, and the words behind the feeling are the silent inner prayers we say all day. Change those words, and you change your experience. This brings us to another deeply misunderstood principle, the need to explain. So many people feel they must talk about their dreams, defend their path, or justify their changes. But Neville warned that explaining often weakens the energy of transformation. Why? Because explanation invites questioning. It creates mental static. It turns something that was once private, vivid, and emotionally alive into something exposed and analyzed. And in that process, the power drains. It's not about secrecy, it's about sacredness. Some things are still forming. Speaking about them too soon can pull them out of their pure state and into the noise of opinion and doubt. Neville taught that the deeper your conviction, the less you feel the urge to talk about it. You're not hiding, you're protecting the seed while it's growing underground. You don't need applause, you don't need permission. You move in silence, not because you're unsure, but because you know. You let the results announce themselves. That's the power of silent knowing. You don't post your goals everywhere. You don't explain your methods to people who don't understand. You don't argue with the old version of yourself or try to convince anyone else to see what you see. You just live it, breathe it, embody it. And when people ask how it happened, you smile, not because you're holding back, but because words could never fully explain how real it already felt, long before it showed up. Neville said, "Do not discuss your dreams or visions unless asked." That wasn't about shame. It was about clarity. Dreams are delicate in their early form, and often the more you talk about them, the less real they feel. Instead, practice silent certainty. Let the inner shift come first. The outer shift always follows. This requires trust. You might feel tempted to explain yourself when others doubt you. You might want to justify your path, especially if it's unconventional. But Neville would tell you that's noise, that's distraction, that's energy leaking out of the moment. Pull it back in. Walk with the posture of someone who already has it, not to prove anything, but because it's the truth you have accepted. People will feel it. The world will adjust. Reality will mirror the self-concept you carry, not the arguments you make. So keep your inner speech clean. Let it reflect the version of you that has already arrived. Speak to yourself like it's already done, gently, consistently, as if it's the most natural thing in the world. And let go of the urge to announce it. The seed becomes a tree in silence. And when the fruit appears, no one needs convincing. It speaks for itself. There's a window of time each night when the mind is open, softer, quieter, closer to the edge of the subconscious. Neville Goddard called it the state akin to sleep, or SATS, and it's one of the most powerful moments for planting new realities. This state happens just before you drift off. That gentle point where the body is relaxed, the world has faded, and thought becomes image. You're not fully awake, but you're not yet asleep. It's in that space that the subconscious listens most intently. Neville didn't just suggest visualizing your desires during the day. He insisted on this nighttime practice, because during sets, your conscious resistance is lowered. The gatekeeper of the mind steps aside, and what you imagine with feeling seeps directly into the soil of the subconscious. He said the subconscious never sleeps. Sleep is the door through which the conscious passes to be creatively joined to the subconscious. Most people in their day replaying stress. They review what went wrong. They worry about what might happen. And without realizing it, they're using SATs to embed more of what they don't want. But when you flip that and begin using this state to imagine only what you do want, with vivid natural emotion, the results can be profound. It's not about effort. It's not about repeating words over and over. It's about dwelling in a short, simple scene, one that implies your wish is already fulfilled. Not reaching for it, not begging for it, but feeling what it's like after it has happened. Neville often said the scene should be short and looped, something that feels ordinary and believable. From the end, like shaking a friend's hand, seeing your name written on a document, or falling asleep in your dream home. Just enough to evoke the emotional reality of it is done. You're not forcing anything. You're letting it be. As your body relaxes and your awareness softens, you gently guide your attention to this scene. Not as a movie you're watching, but as a moment you're inside. You feel it. You touch it, you hear the sounds. You smile, and slowly you let sleep take you. Neville believed that this process reprograms the subconscious far more deeply than anything done during the day, because the subconscious doesn't respond to logic, it responds to impressions, emotion, repetition, sensory detail. You could affirm something 100 times in daylight and still block it with doubt. But one night, spent fully immersed in the end result, with relaxed belief, can make a deeper imprint. And that brings us to a subtle but crucial principle: detaching from time and outcome. This is where most people struggle. They visualize, they affirm, they feel, and then they watch. They wait. They count the days. They start asking, where is it? Why isn't it here yet? But Neville taught that reality doesn't follow clocks. It follows assumption. The moment you become the person who has it and sustain that inner identity, the outer world begins to shift. But the moment you start checking, doubting, and timing it, you've slipped back into the state of not having. And that state keeps the desire just out of reach. Detachment isn't indifference, it's confidence. It's the calm knowing that what you've assumed is already in motion. You don't need to see it to trust it. You've already seen it in your imagination. And that's enough. Neville said, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and continue feeling that it is fulfilled until that which you feel objectifies itself. It's not about waiting for proof. It's about nurturing the feeling until the proof can't help but show up. This kind of trust feels strange at first, especially in a world that values action, control, and measurement. But assumption is not passive, it's creative. It's a bold declaration to the unseen. I am already this. And from that declaration, a new timeline begins. The challenge is to not dig it up. Don't disturb the soil. Don't rush the harvest. Let your job be the inner shift. Let reality do its part. This is where Neville's teachings become less about theory and more about spiritual maturity. Can you stay loyal to your inner world, even when the outer hasn't changed yet? Can you stop checking the mirror and just keep walking in the identity you've chosen? When you wake up in the morning, ask yourself, who am I being? Not what's happening out there, but what's alive in here. Your inner identity is what leads. The rest follows. And when doubt creeps in, because it will go back to seats, use that sacred moment before sleep to re-enter the feeling of fulfillment. Let it soothe your mind. Let it be your final impression before the subconscious takes over. Because every night you hand your inner world to something deeper. You plant the seeds that will shape your tomorrows. So don't hand it fear. Don't hand it desperation. Hand it peace. Hand it joy. Hand it the emotion of already having. That's how you build a life that unfolds from within. So now you've seen it. 7 powerful principles that aren't just ideas but living tools. Not tomorrow, not next month, today. Try them all. Apply them not with pressure, but with presence. Even one of these can cause a shift so deep, the outer world has no choice but to respond. Here's your challenge. For just one day, walk as if it's already done. Feel from the end. Talk to yourself like the person who already lives that life. Let your assumptions shape your moments, not your circumstances. And tell us which principle hit you the hardest. Was it sex before sleep? Was it the power of inner speech? Or maybe that quiet, steady detachment from time and outcome? Drop your answer in the comments. We'd love to know what moved you most. If this video sparked something in you, even a small reminder of your inner power, give it a like. Share it with someone who needs it. And make sure to subscribe to Ignis Mindset for more teachings that go beyond the surface and into the real work, the work within. Because you're not waiting for the world to change. The world is waiting for you to remember who you already are.